Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel and another video. Bit of a mishmash this one, and definitely not my typical. Having said that, this was the third social in the space of 7 days. What the hell's happening to me? Still haven't quite mastered proper social though. As I nearly said 2 Sundays in a row, but 2 weekends in a row. Group ride, but managed to avoid the coffee stop. So out here with South Peaks Cycling Club, you'll see actually this was the second ride of the week, or their third rather, but the second that I attempted to sort of tag along with. So the first one was earlier on in the week, and that was what, maybe 3-4 days into a heat wave, something like that. So it's just an evening, couple of loops on what is largely my sort of regular hour-long test loop. There's slight deviation to it, but by and large, it's pretty much a carbon copy. But it had been rumbling with thunder sort of for a good couple of hours, and it was dry when we first set out, and we probably got about 5 minutes, maybe not even that, but 5 minutes from sort of the meetup point one, of which there's 2 or 3. So by the time we got to the second one, yeah, the rain had been biblical. We'd actually missed the majority of it coming down, but you'll see by just sheer number of puddles. And I basically called it a day at that point because I'd already gone the long way round to the meet point anyway. So I'd effectively done 1 lap. And then speaking to one of the guys who I know who's a member of SPCC, he basically said that they just did 1 full lap and then, yeah, kind of called it. So in that sense, at least they didn't miss too much. Whether or not they ended up at the pub or, like me, they just started straight back. And, well, I spent about, 45 minutes then cleaning my bike. Great. So anyway, decided I quite like the look of their route that they were doing on the Saturday. The weather was good number of riders out. They are a good bunch as well. I do sort of jibe a little bit in terms of what SPCC actually stands for, but you know, hey, each to their own. It's not that I'm antisocial. I'm just trying to not muddy the waters and use the time that I have really to the maximum. Fair play to them anyway. In terms of the stop, I think they had a good one, looking at the pictures. And there's a couple of the guys there who give kind of as good as they get, so fair play to them. So much so that I've decided to title this ride as Aero is everything, but so are coffee shops, because I was greeted at the meet point on Saturday morning with, what the effing hell are they on your shoes? So, TovaShoes. And yeah, I guess I owe a certain member of the group a belated birthday present, because, you know, 5 watts. Aero is everything. So otherwise, what to say really about this route? It was a little bit different for them from in terms of what I understand. So it was only about 25 miles to the coffee shop. I guess they normally sort of build it so that the coffee stop is later on in the ride. At least that's my understanding. Apologies, guys, if I've got that wrong. But the main point of doing that was there's a local bike shop, so Velo Bavarian, that's just recently opened a cafe sort of linked to the bike shop. So they basically devised the route so that the cafe stop was sort of nearer the beginning, so that they weren't going like deliberately a million miles out of the way. And then where I guess it got a little bit different was sort of there was more bolted on to the ride then toward the end. So rather than going back, yeah, like the most direct route. So I guess in that sense it was a little bit lopsided. But although the cafe's only been open for a little while, I have heard good things about it. Matt Stevens was up there in the last week or so. So formerly of GCN, now working for TNT Sports. Sigma Sports, you know the guy, always laughing, always in good spirits, curly hair. He's fairly local to us. He lives in Derbyshire anyway, so he was up there doing a bit of a promo piece for them. So all good. There was plenty of riders out. I think in part due to the weather, but definitely down to opening of this cafe as well. So I think out on the ride overall was probably about 10, possibly 12. And by and large, group pretty much stayed together. There was a couple of times where there was sort of, I guess, longer climbs, as Derbyshire tends to have, where there was a very short regroup then toward the top. But compared to a number of social rides that I've been on, and probably one of the big reasons why I stopped going on them quite so much was it was just too stop starty, and by the time you add up all the time where you're sort of hanging around at the side of the road making a nuisance of yourself, you were sort of adding into 20 minutes, half an hour. So all good in that regard. And what else to say? So I did mess up a little bit in terms of recording the footage. There was a time when I actually turned my camera off, which was a little bit disappointing, because at that point I really would have sort of been proving the value of the TovaShoes, where I put in quite a big effort in order to pull one of the guys back in the group with the hope that he would catch the guy who was at sort of leading up the climb. I turned the camera off for that instead of turning it on, and then I think ended up turning it on when I thought I was turning it off, whilst we were basically hanging around with the same guy who I'd put a pull in for, to basically take a very amateurish picture of his bike. Crank arms were in the wrong way, or facing the wrong way, I should say. Valves not aligned, just amateur. But fortunately, there was a good few guys in the group who understood this, pointed it out to him, and then he got a professional photo, complete with cow udder in the background. So look forward to seeing how that one came out. After that, a bit of a dicey moment, as you'll have seen probably a few minutes ago, where we're coming down Crompton Hill, which weirdly I've only ever been up, and it was pretty much by accident. It was due to a road closure. I think there'd been an accident on the A6, which is where we are now, so I'd only ever been up to it, sort of following a diversion. But that was a lot of fun until there was a car, that sort of pickup truck, that was deciding to take a right-hand turn, and I think probably noticed the turn a bit too late, so they were a little bit cockeyed. So luckily, everybody made it through unscathed. There was probably just enough room for single file sort of on the left-hand side of it. And then after that, it's essentially a, 10 minute, 15 minutes, something like that. There is an element in here where I speed it up just a touch, where I'm taking my turn on the front, but otherwise, nice, I say fairly tight. It would be tighter were it not for the potholes, in fairness, along the A6. So from the bottom of Crompton through Belper, and then out to Velo Bavarian, where I then waved the guys off, and I probably did another half an hour or so, just easy. So trying, as a part of my plan, because obviously main focus for me is still TTs, but over the last couple of weeks I've sort of just backed things off a little bit. So it kind of largely looks like one or two sort of more intense sessions in the week, not too dissimilar really to what I was doing before the Open that I entered at the beginning of May. Only kind of an hour and a half for each of those sessions, time trial bike, TT position, and because the weather's been so good, I've been doing those outdoors. And then otherwise, it means that I've kind of got 4 to 5 or maybe even 5 to 6 hours in the week then when been getting out on the road bike, which I've pretty much had a complete change of bike ownership over the last few weeks. So my S-Works Roubaix team has gone. That's gone to a new home. The Ribble Endurance that I had, which was mostly a winter bike and sort of turbo trainer bike, has gone. And so down to a couple of giants. So my Trinity, which is my time trial bike, and then I just recently took delivery of a giant Propel, so an Advanced Pro, which I've probably put about 300 miles on, give or take, and quite liking that bike. I will do a full piece on that at some point, really when I get opportunity to do so, and then otherwise waiting now on a Giant Defy, which I'm really going to use as a winter bike, or if I just want something that's slightly more relaxed than the Propel. Anyway, that's enough about that. So in terms of where we are now on the A6, coming up to the point, because I guessed I was probably going to be peeling off in about 10 or 15 minutes time, that now would be a good opportunity to get a sort of sweet spot ramping into threshold type effort. So the next time there was a change around, I decided that I'd kind of bypass that and take my stint on the front. Now, whether or not it was down to the road and kind of how things went, I'm not too sure. But I managed to do about 5 minutes on the front. Fairly good pull for me, all things considered. It certainly wasn't a go all out VO2 job, but I wanted to put a good stint in, because really up to this point, apart from a couple of climbs where I sort of sat just under threshold, otherwise I'd sort of sat in a group and not really done a fat lot of work. And these guys are pretty good to me. They do let me tag along largely without questions, apart from my Aero outfit choices. They do let me tag along, so fair's fair. Let's get kind of stuck in and do our part. So yeah, next time there's a changeover, that's what we go for. But going back to what I was saying, so it was about a 5 minute or so effort, and at the point where I was kind of looking down at the Garmin and thinking, right, okay, yeah, that's kind of me now, just for a little while, sort of turned around, see who was there, and everybody was strung out in a long line. So I would hope, and this is by no means me being a dick, let's say, but I would hope that it was an effort that was welcomed. Certainly the fact that everybody was strung out into a single line told me that, yeah, I guess I'd managed to put in quite a good stint. So I do speed it up because there's nothing to look at and it's just tarmac. And yeah, if you just want to see tarmac, albeit with stats normally overlaid, then go and check out my time trial videos, because that's essentially what they are. So yeah, I think this speeds up just to maybe a couple of minutes, whereas it was about 5:30-ish. Something like that. So I've no idea kind of where we are now, about this point where the guys start to pull through. So that's me done for the 5 minutes or so. And then as I let everybody come through, just give me slight recovery. And then I'm sort of thinking, well, okay, so I misjudged this in terms of the distance to the cafe. I'll just sit on the back maybe for a minute, just regroup. I know that Belper's coming up, and having gone through Belper a million times, especially on a Saturday, best thing to do is to take an aggressive line and basically keep moving. So we'll just take a little bit of recovery, really checking my brain to make sure that I've not again misjudged the road in terms of where we actually are, and then I'll pull through and do sort of final stint then to the cafe, because as I say, I don't want anybody thinking that I'm freeloading more than anything else. So there was about 10 or 12 out. There was a few sort of regulars who I know, or I don't know, but sort of recognise, having been out with these guys a few times before or bumped into them before, and then a few new faces. But the one thing I will say, whenever you go out with these guys, they're all pretty tight, no idiots, and that's what I quite like about going out with these guys. They do generally head north, sort of out into Derbyshire. They are a Derbyshire cycle club, hence the name South Peaks. And unfortunately, a lot of the routes don't always lend to kind of what's part of my plan for that particular week, especially if I've not managed to get in time on my time trial bike. Then I'll take sort of an hour and a quarter on the Saturday morning, and then do a longer, steadier ride then on the Sunday. But as I had rest day planned on Sunday of this week, basically because my diary hadn't gone to complete shit during the week, then yeah, it was opportunity for yet another social ride. I'm not too sure how many members they're actually up to now. You will find them on Strava fairly easy, unlike some club names that you're never quite 100% sure. And this is also the point of me putting the branding at the beginning of these videos, because again, you know, they're pretty well advertised. So they do most, in fact, as far as I know, everything they organise through Strava. So typically looks like sort of doing this in the wrong order, so to speak. So the weekend ride is typically on a Saturday morning, and generally speaking, I'd say 90% of the time, 99% of the time, they do head north out into Derbyshire. Every so often, they will do like an alternate route and head either south or east into sort of Nottinghamshire, Leicestershire. And they're largely sort of 50 to 60 miles, I'd guess. And they are no drop. So, yeah, good ride to do at the weekend. And then in the week, they have two organised sort of on a regular basis. So there's the Tuesday night that they do, which is the Sawley Shuffle, as it's been named. Basically 2 laps, pretty good sort of TT course were it not for a couple of traffic lights, to be honest. But typically the road's quite quiet. They head out about 7 o'clock from, I can never get this right, is it Borrowash or is it Spondon? One of them, anyway. The one that's near Elveston Castle. So they meet there about 7 o'clock, and then there's a second meet-up point, which is Aston Post Office, generally about 10 past 7, I guess, 7:15. Something like that, and then, yeah, a couple of laps sort of out toward Long Eaton, cut through Sawley into Draycott, and then back round to either Borrowash or Spon. I think it's Borrowash. And then back round past Elveston Castle, Fulston, so on and so forth. So yeah, just 2 laps of that. And I wouldn't necessarily say that's a drop ride, but if they're going to let anybody go, then it will be on that ride. And there are a couple of cut-throughs. It's quite a popular route, that one anyway, for chain gangs, albeit later on in the week, there's a couple of clubs that use that same loop, for chain gangs. So that's that on the Tuesday night, and then on the Thursday they then do a typically 30-mile that, no surprise, ends up at a pub. So it's not a cafe, but it is a pub. So difference being is that's not built into the route. They just basically do that toward the end, I guess, as a wind down from the working week. Organise plans for whatever Saturday looks like, and then yeah, do it all over again. So I think I'm going to wrap this up about here, because pretty much it. And once we get through here, I'm going to take the line again, because I know there's parked cars on the left hand side when we get through the other side here. I think it's Ambergate. I think that's what it's called. Basically showing up my lack of northern Midlands into Derbyshire geographical knowledge, or lack of, here. And yeah, it's just again the same, because remember, Aero is everything, but so are cafe stops. Asterix, don't be a freeloader. So if anybody has any comments or questions, I will do my best to answer them about SPCC. I may well just point you in the direction of what I think is the chairman. Can you say that now? Chairperson. He's a guy anyway. At least the chap who I've reached out to a few times in the past just to ask 1 or 2 questions. Yeah, so very receptive, very responsive if you do have any questions about the club. As I say, you will find them on Strava though, so SPCC. They are invite only, I believe. Fairly sure that was the case when I sort of joined up to the group. But yeah, there we go. So otherwise for me, I've Melton TT, which by the time this video goes out will have either happened or be happening. And then another Club 10, just not decided which one. That'll happen in the next couple of weeks then, kind of before holiday, when a couple of weeks off work, probably a little bit of riding if I'm lucky outside of the UK. Watch this space. And then, yeah, what else have we got coming up? Giant Propel that I really do need to do. It's not going to be an unboxing because at that point I'll have probably done about 500 miles on it. And then, yeah, Giant Defy coming in the not too distant future. So, any comments, questions, drop them in the section below. Big thumbs up if you like the footage, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Thanks very much for watching.